There are very few teams that dare to press you high. Is that something that you're expecting tomorrow? If it happens, will you have lots of space to play with?
Bueno, en primer lugar, creo que una de las grandezas de este tipo de competiciones es que los partidos de primera ronda y de segunda son totalmente diferentes porque hay un resultado previo. A lo largo de los partidos los equipos van variando dónde nos presionan, si más atrás o se atreven a presionarnos alto. Y esas son algunas de las preguntas que siempre nos hacemos los entrenadores, pero repito, nosotros nuestra intención es clara, intentar solventar los problemas que nos presente Aston Villa y nuestro objetivo es claro, venir a ganar el partido.
First and foremost, I think it's one of the strengths of a competition like this played over 2 legs is that teams will set up differently in the first and the second game. In the first game, teams might press high, but others, they might move on then to press deeper. These questions that coaches always ask themselves, but I'll repeat that for me, the most important thing is to look at the problems that Aston Villa may pose for us, and the aim, of course, is very clear to win. Tomorrow, the atmosphere will be really big. Your players able to focus on the match.
Nos encanta jugar al fútbol a domicilio y al exterior, o sea que nuestros jugadores y el equipo ya está acostumbrado a jugar en escenarios de alto nivel. Ojalá podamos ver una noche de fútbol apasionante en la que se pueda disfrutar de un gran partido de fútbol. No creo que sea en ningún caso un problema, es una motivación para nosotros.
For us, it's always a pleasure to play and compete in a stadium like Villa Park with so much history. We love playing football, whether that be at home or away. So our team and our supporters are completely accustomed to these different places and atmospheres. It's going to be a big match, and there's no problem with the atmosphere. It's a motivation, if anything. At the beginning of the season, there was an excess of confidence. And how do you protect your players from overconfidence that might surround a club like PSG?
Puede ser en este momento. Creo que una de las claves de este equipo es la madurez que tiene a pesar de su juventud para olvidarse de lo que está alrededor y centrarse en lo que es jugar a fútbol y en competir en una eliminatoria que todavía no está cerrada, que es muy difícil y que mañana va a haber muchos momentos en los que vamos a sufrir mucho. Pero estar preparado para sufrir te prepara para nuestro objetivo, que no es otro que, repito, intentar ganar el partido.
Over seasons, the situations change around us. When I arrived at the start of the season, there was a lot of pessimism around the clubs, and then more recently, you've got over-motivation and almost an excess of happiness at the moment. But the key is maturity. We see that in our team, despite its being a relatively young team. We have to forget everything around it and just focus on our game. The tie isn't over; it's still open. It's going to be difficult, and we're ready to suffer tomorrow in this match and prepared to realise the aim, which is to win this match. Unai Emery said that he's looked at all of scenarios up until penalty kicks. Is that a scenario that worries you about tomorrow's match?
Que preparemos todos los escenarios habidos y por haber. De hecho, mañana a la hora que acabe el partido ya solo habrá uno de los dos equipos en semifinales, el otro estará eliminado. Son competiciones apasionantes por eso, porque no hay nada que perder. En este caso Aston Villa está por detrás en el marcador, pero todavía queda el segundo partido y es evidente que todo está bien. Nosotros conocemos, igual que ellos, a la perfección ese tipo de eliminatorias y en ningún caso hay exceso de confianza, todo lo contrario, hay una motivación grande de hacer nuestro partido. ¿Qué partido nos interesa para estar cerca de la victoria? Ese es nuestro objetivo y intentar superar todos los problemas que nos pongan en este momento.
It's totally normal that coaches always prepare for every scenario, and at the end of the match tomorrow there'll only be one team in the semi-final, the other team will be knocked out, and that's why it's such a wonderful tournament. Nothing to lose in that sense. Aston Villa are down at the moment and behind, but the tie remains very open, and both teams know that's the type of tie that it is. There's no overconfidence on either front. We've just got motivation to overcome the problems that that Villa set us, and to win the match, which is our objective. I know that coaches don't like to think of certitude, but having beaten Villa 3-1, do you feel very, very confident, certain even of the match tomorrow?
Es como cuando dais favoritos a algunos equipos antes de jugar. Está llena la carretera de eliminados de equipos favoritos. Hemos jugado el primer partido, creo que hemos sido superiores al Aston Villa y hemos merecido ese resultado, pero eso es una historia que ya acabó. Siguiente historia es segundo partido, quién va a ser mejor, quién gana el partido. Está abierto todo, es evidente que nosotros tenemos una ventaja, pero no va en nuestra filosofía, ni creo que vaya en lo que nosotros buscamos como equipo, ir a especular con el resultado. Si mañana el Aston Villa es mejor que nosotros, si juega mejor y marca más goles, ganará el partido, ya veremos con qué diferencia. Repito, nuestro objetivo es volver a demostrar mañana que tenemos nivel para estar en semifinales. Eso es lo que queremos demostrar.
It's the same kind of thing when people talk about favourites before the match, and I always say that that the road for the Champions League is full of favourites who've been knocked out in the earlier rounds. We know that we were better in the first match and we deserved to win, but that's behind us now. There's a second story starting now. Who's going to be better tomorrow? Who's going to win tomorrow? And of course we have an advantage, but our philosophy isn't to speculate about this or talk about certainties. If Aston Villa win, if Aston Villa are better, then they can overcome us. So what we need to do is to show that we're a team that deserves to be in the semi-final. On Donnarumma, lots of people have see his distribution as being a bit of a weak point, but against Liverpool he played really well with the ball at his feet with his distribution. Have you spoken to him about this? Because we feel like he's improved with his long balls from his feet. I have nothing to say about this. We spoke with Ousmane Dembélé just now about how he feels, about why things are going so well for him right now, and he spoke about his repositioning and also his lucidity with the good service he's receiving. When you started talking to him about his positioning, when you obviously change a lot your strikers. But if you ask for Ousmane about it, Usman was here, he answered your question, and my ideas are very clear. And I've always said that even when the press were against him, that he was on the right channel, the right path. I know you don't like to compare yourself to other European teams, but do you think that you've got the least predictable strike force in Europe?
Champions League, en la que cada equipo hemos tenido un grupo totalmente diferente, no ha habido nadie que haya tenido los mismos rivales a los que enfrentarse para poder comparar. En ese sentido fuimos los menos afortunados, pero a lo largo de todas las jornadas de Champions había datos estadísticos que hablaban muy bien de nuestro equipo, y así se lo transmití a mis jugadores y al equipo. Datos, quizás no en número de puntos ni número de goles, en los que estuvimos especialmente mal en las primeras semanas de Champions, pero creo que el bagaje de lo que el equipo estaba haciendo era muy interesante, y creo que desde el principio Paris Saint-Germain ha sido uno de los mejores equipos de Europa, sin ninguna duda, en los números, estadísticas. No hablo de mi forma de pensar cómo hemos jugado, si mejor o peor, sino de los números en términos de posesión de balón, en términos de ocasiones creadas, en términos de ocasiones creadas por el rival. Unos números muy buenos, entre los mejores equipos de Europa desde el principio. Lo que pasa es que la clasificación no marcaba esos mismos números, y ahora mismo creo que una vez que hemos recuperado la normalidad en la efectividad, estamos claramente entre los mejores equipos de la competición, y nuestro deseo es seguir mejorando para poder estar lo más arriba posible.
I think really right from the start in football, and particularly in Champions League, it's very difficult to compare because all of the groups are different, and not all the teams had the same opponents this year. We didn't have much luck in the draw for that stage of the Champions League, but I think that the stats have always been positive for us, and that's what I've shown my teams, not just in terms of goals and points, but other stats about the construction of play. And from the start, we were really one of the best teams in that sense. So it's not just about how I look at things; it's about statistics. It's about possession, chances we create, the chances created against us, and from the beginning, all of those have been really good. Even in that first phase, even if in that first phase we had it tough. Since we had players back, and in the later stages we've got more effectiveness out on the pitch, and we're among the best now clearly, and I think that our objective is to carry on going to get to the very top. What makes you think that Unai Emery will be able to find space on the pitch?
Siempre planteas y piensas, porque hemos visto a Aston Villa jugar contra Liverpool, contra City, contra los mejores equipos del campeonato, Arsenal. Siempre piensas qué escenario se va a dar, dónde va a estar más el equipo rival, si más arriba, si más abajo. Creo que mañana claramente su intención en cuanto a defender va a ser defender mucho más alto, con lo que eso implica. Si eres exitoso vas a poder recuperar el balón cerca de la portería, de nuestra portería, pero eso implica muchos riesgos. Es evidente que al ser segundo partido los riesgos van a estar ahí, y creo que son partidos con mucha más incertidumbre y más imposibles de prever lo que va a ocurrir, porque va a depender de cómo superamos nosotros esas acciones y cómo las ejecutan ellos. Creo que el partido va a tener momentos muy intensos y muy interesantes.
Of course, before the first match, we think about how things are going to go. We watched Villa play the best teams in England, against Liverpool, against City, against Arsenal, and you're always thinking about what scenarios might take place. Are they going to defend high? Are they going to have a low block? I think tomorrow that they're going to defend higher, and if they manage this well, then they're able to win the ball back closer to our goal. But there are risks with that, and in the second leg there are always those sort of risks and lots of uncertainty. Impossible to know how things are going to go. We have to see how successful teams are in putting their games out, their game plans in. But we know that it's going to be a really intense, a really interesting game. About Fabio Ruiz, who's criticised when he came to PSG, and now he's a player who's always in the team. Why do you appreciate him so much?
Bueno, pues quizás yo, que conozco muy bien a Fabián, que lo tuve en la selección, en el europeo, pero no en el mundial. Yo creo que estamos hablando en el anterior europeo, en el que España gana, es nombrado mejor mediocampista del europeo. Una experiencia, y a mí una de las cosas que más me gusta de Fabián es que es de los pocos jugadores capaces de jugar en función de lo que hacen sus compañeros, ocupar una serie de espacios, compensar una serie de situaciones que se dan en nuestro campo. No hay muchos jugadores que no solo estén atentos a lo que tienen que hacer, sino a lo que hacen los demás. Es difícil encontrar ese perfil de jugadores, y Fabián es un jugador ya con una experiencia, con un bagaje. Creo que soy muy afortunado de tener la calidad de los mediocampistas que tengo, porque todos ellos aportan ese equilibrio que necesita el equipo para saber atacar, pero también para saber defender.
Maybe start with it's a player that I know really well because I had him for the national team at the Euros, maybe, but although not at the World Cup, and during the European Championship, he was voted best midfielder in the competition. What I really like about him is one of those rare players who adapts his game to other players and his teammates. So he's capable of finding space and covering his teammates. He's very attentive to what he has to do, but also what other players do. And that's a very rare quality, so it's something that I really appreciate. And generally speaking, I've got lots of players with really big assets and who are very efficient both in attack and defence. Dembélé said that he was a little bit bored even not to play at the weekend. Do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage to have this break before the match? And you could have given your advantage in the league. You could have rotated your team if you did have a match at the weekend.
Que no hay partido, que se ha aburrido. Hay tantos partidos que ya no me acuerdo. Este fin de semana, es verdad, si no jugamos. Y se ha aburrido, yo también.
I couldn't even remember that there wasn't a match at the weekend. If Dembélé was bored, I was too.